Welcome, everyone, to another edition of PreVeil's Compliance Corner. We have a very special guest today, Kelly Fuller-Gordon, who is the CEO of Risk Compliance, or Risk Inc., as they are better known by. Before we jump into today's topic and getting to introduce Kelly, let me just introduce my wonderful co-host, Noël Vestal, who is head of all things compliance here at PreVeil.
Hi there.
Hi.
Hi, everyone.
You know, Noël is so stressed out by compliance that rather than turning her hair gray, it is turning her hair red.
It's like just the stress and anger of it is turning my hair red. Isn't what it is?
Red as a tomato.
I think everyone who is listening right now probably has some compliance-related anger.
That's why they're listening.
That is why they are listening.
We understand.
And we are joined today, as I said at the beginning, by Kelly Fuller-Gordon, who is the CEO of Risk Inc. Kelly, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, well, thanks for inviting me today. I'm really excited to be here with the two of you. You're so much fun. Hopefully everyone will see that on our call today. But it really is my pleasure. So my name is Kelly Fuller-Gordon. I am the founder and CEO of Risks. And I've been an IT nerd, or at least in IT, for, I just calculated today, it's kind of scary, but 30 years. So I actually started out as a programmer, a developer on a, I'm really going to date myself, on a System 36, IBM System 36. Come on.
Yeah.
Anyone?
Yes.
I don't understand what that means. What does that
It's
mean?
okay. It's okay, Orlee. It just means that she's very young. You're very young, Kelly. That's what that means.
Mainframe, basically, right? Okay. I started programming on a mainframe. But then kind of early on in my career, I got hired to be a part of the assessment team for the first ever NASA FSMA audit. So I really knew very little about FSMA, NIST, anything at that time. I joined that team. It was a ton of fun. We visited every NASA location over the period of 2 years. We went on site, did the assessment. We were home for a week doing our write-up, and then the next week we're on site at another location.
Wait,
so
Kelly,
I'm
going to stop you there because I think you are the only person I've ever heard put the words compliance and fun in the same sentence.
I know. This is what I'm saying. Like compliance can be super fun.
Full exposure. All right, go ahead.
Yeah. So someone did ask me if we visited all NASA locations, and I said, yes, all. And they're like, really? Even the space station? Okay. We did not visit the space
It's a good question.
So let me clarify. Anyway, that was really my foray into cybersecurity, information security, we called it at the time. And as I'm sure you know, and many listening, after FSMA came out, then so many industries started developing their own frameworks, many or maybe most based on NIST. So I've been really fortunate to have grown up with NIST as my background. So that's who I am.
So I'm going to just ask you to tell a little bit, because we talk a lot about CMMC here on CMMC Compliance Corner. No surprise there. But you kind of come from a unique perspective. You're kind of a smaller, can I say that?
Absolutely.
CMMC consultancy. What are you seeing here in CMMC land? What are the companies you're getting to talk to? What are you doing in CMMC space, and what are they coming to you with questions about?
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely when we're looking at our CMMC landscape, our clients are small to medium-sized businesses, primarily for this work effort. We ourselves, Risks, has to comply with CMMC because we are a subcontractor to the government. We are a small business. We're a woman-owned small business. So we know firsthand kind of the pain points around being a small business, having to comply with CMMC. So it really gives us a unique lens and perspective when we're helping our business clients, right? So many of our clients, again, focusing on the small, medium businesses, we see a couple of things. We see that there's many of our clients that are just unaware of the requirements. They've been a subcontractor maybe for a number of years, but they still are unaware, and that can be from a number of different reasons. Sometimes, there's a really small, lean IT team that is tasked with operationally keeping the lights on, which is a lot. So their kind of secondary job of keeping up with security controls and compliance requirements, well, no one has that kind of expertise, and it's not number one top of their list every day.
Can I just cut in really quickly? So when you say they're unaware of CMMC, does that mean that they don't know that they have a deFARS clause in their contract, or does it mean that they just don't understand the implications of it?
Yeah, so I would say, good question. Some of them have not actually heard of CMMC, and so they may be aware that they have a deFARS clause in their contract. But even then, if they're aware of that, so they may be aware of some of the, foundational requirements of, we should have access controls in place. They would really not have an understanding of what that means from an auditor's perspective and how to show my control is in place, operating as intended, producing the desired results, which is what an auditor wants to see.
Yeah.
So I would say that.
Kelly, do you feel like a lot of these, clients that you're talking to and consulting with, that they don't necessarily understand, sort of what could happen if they aren't doing this stuff? Do they understand sort of the, like the False Claims Act and the CCFI that's out there and all these, big companies? And, there's so many of them now that are happening that are getting in trouble finally for not doing, what they said they've been doing. Do you have the experience where a lot of your clients don't know about that sort of side of it as well? Because I know we're still dealing with people who don't understand that part.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So absolutely. Because, even some of my clients, they're very sophisticated in what they do and how they run their business, and even their IT teams in running operationally their IT systems. They're very technically adept and astute. That's much different than being familiar even with a control environment, right? So a lot of organizations that I work for haven't had, strong mandates or a board of director. They're not a public company. They don't have someone overseeing like an internal controls department or an internal audit. So even when we talk to some clients about using the word control, these are new concepts, right? And it doesn't mean that they don't have controls in place, right? So another thing we see, and where we're really able to add a lot of value, is to say, okay, let's just talk. What are you guys doing?
Right.
And then we can translate what they say they're doing into, that means you have this control. Let's document it, right? So a lot of what we see, I'm sure we'll probably get to this, I might be jumping ahead, but a lot of what we see is our clients need support in policies, procedures, processes, documentation. So again, it's not like they don't have anything. They just maybe don't know exactly how to document it. You guys can appreciate the fact that the government likes to see documentation the way they like to see it.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, so very much so. Kelly, how are they kind of coming to you? How are they finding out about you? And then realizing, okay, well, I guess they're finding out about you. I'm partly answering my own question because they realize they have the need to meet the deFARS clause, and they're figuring, oh, sugar, who do I reach out to? So we get that. We get a lot of referrals. So referrals, we get contacts from, if we do some speaking engagements, if we, sit on panels at Rocky Mountain Information Security Conference, things like that, where we're just out.
meeting with others in the cybersecurity space or cyber compliance space, then we get inquiries that way. And then, we partner, like looking at, solutions like PreVeil. We don't offer solutions. We're agnostic. We advise. So we partner with others that can help fill, bridge gaps that are identified that are so critical, especially with our small to medium sized clients.
So this is probably a good segue to our next point. So what are the challenges that you're seeing in terms of getting those teams started? I'm assuming part of that's education, but what else is there?
So definitely education. We talked about that. And there's also a challenge we see with buy-in at the right level, understanding and buy-in at
that all the time, all the time.
Decision makers.
That's fascinating. And if you don't mind, I'd like to kind of dig in there for a second, because if you are a contractor and you have a DFARS clause in your contract that says, okay, you have to meet the DFARS 7012, which means NIST and C through G,
all the things,
right?
All the things that 7012 makes you do.
Up with a momentary blank to be as articulate about these points as possible, as needed. But to the point, if you have all these things in your contract and you go to your whoever's the decision maker, CISO, CEO, and you say, "Hey, boss, ma'am, we need to meet these requirements," and they're saying, "No." I mean, is that actually how the conversation's going, or
saying no?
Some of them are.
Some of them probably just are saying no, but I think they're saying no because when we get that, they're saying no because they've supposedly had to be meeting these requirements for X number of years, and no one has asked them about it to date. No one has come to them and said, let me see proof that you do have these controls in place. Even their primes. The primes are like 10.
They're just as bad. Some of them, sometimes in the conversations I've had with our customers, the primes are sometimes so much more guilty of not doing what they're supposed to do than the subcontractors are. And when you were saying, there's this whole idea of, oh, okay, yeah, we need to do this. Yeah, but we haven't needed to do it for the past 6 years. So why do I suddenly care now? And I understand, truly, if I'm looking at it from, I've worked for a lot of small companies in the DIB over the course, and I obviously, you own one. So, you have to be fiscally responsible. You have to manage and prioritize. Okay, what do I really need to get it done this year and next year and et cetera? How much is that going to cost? All that budgetary constraint. And I kind of understand where a lot of these CEOs and executive staff are coming from, because I've got a million other things to pay for this year. Why do I care about this all of a sudden after 6 years? Now it suddenly matters. Oh, okay, sure. Well, whatever. And it doesn't matter. I've even had conversations with some of our customers, these IT people who usually we're IT people who get thrown into compliance every time. It's just how it goes, right? We always get thrown into it. And I've talked to so many who say, hey, I've had these conversations with my CEO or my CTO or whoever it happens to be and said, hey, well, you need to do this right now. And they go, yeah, but do we?
Yeah.
So what do you do in those scenarios? If you have someone come to you who says, hey, I'm the IT person, I think you guys are great and I want to do this. And the CEO goes, I don't think we need to do this right now. How do you handle that?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
If you can.
So a couple of things too, we have seen primes kind of direct, if you will, that's maybe too heavy-handed of a term, but direct the subs to just wait until it's final. It's not final yet. We don't know for sure. So it's not final yet. So let's wait. Okay. But what we do when we're advising clients is we say, hey, we hear you. I get it. I don't want to spend a lot of money on CMMC compliance either. However, if you get us in early and you start looking and again, identifying your gaps, because maybe you're more compliant, hopefully, than you think you are, but most of our clients still need support with documentation. I kind of drive that into the ground, but that is a huge area where, people just haven't been able to commit a lot of time, number one, or number two, they don't know what it looks like to write a system security plan, an SSP, right?
Yeah.
Or to write policies and procedures at the right level that will be accepted for an audit or for a certification.
And what artifacts do they need to support that?
We don't even know what an artifact is.
Right, exactly.
Right. Yeah. And then if we get in early, we can identify those gaps. And for areas where you just need to flip a switch or change a configuration setting, let's do it. And let's do it early. So then you can show that over a period of time, you have had this control in place and you didn't just flip it right before the audit team came in. Right. And we really work with our clients to help get to help prepare the executive team and get their buy-in, right? So a lot of our executives, we will help and explain like the operational revenue competitive advantage drivers of getting certified, being proactive. You know, again, I'm a small business. I'm not just going to spend money on anything. And so there are some areas where we're more reactive than proactive. This is not one of those areas. Like we had one small client that were maybe more medium, but anyway, we came in and did a CIS critical security controls assessment for them. Right. Then along the way, we learned, oh, you guys actually, in part of your business, do have a contract with the prime to the DoD. So FYI, did you know that you have to be compliant? And they're like, yeah, well, the execs, like they know, but no, like they're just not on board. So we do ongoing outsourced CISO work for them. And so as part of that engagement, I said, hey, let's just do proactively the gap assessment, right? Between the critical security controls and, NIST 800, 171, CMMC. So we did that and they had much more in place than they expected. They were so pleasantly surprised. So then when they went back to the execs and said, hey, guess what? Like, this is what we have in place. So here's our gaps. How about we start committing some time and resources and money to filling those gaps? Not only because we will need to at some point, because it makes sense from an operational security standpoint as well. It makes us more secure. These aren't just, oh, we need to write policies and procedures.
This is such a great point that you're making. And I love that, because the idea, a couple of things. One, that you're saying, hey, why you can get a consultant in early to start helping you with that stuff. And the idea that you're framing it from a more positive perspective, I love, because we try to do that too, but it's compliance. So it's a struggle to frame it positively sometimes. But you make a really good point that a lot of these companies do probably have at least some of this stuff in place. They just maybe don't have it documented or documented correctly, or maybe they have one solution, but it's not turned on exactly the way that it needs to be, or what have you. I think I know so many of our customers, I have, talked off the proverbial ledge when it comes to compliance. Like, it's going to be okay. You can do this. I know it's scary. You can do this. But it's really great to hear your perspective again, because it's such a unique one, since you guys also have to be compliant yourselves, just like we do. It's such an amazing experience to have you share what's going on with you and your clients, but also you have that background of compliance. You are a compliance person, so and you have to do compliance internally. So it's nice to see you make a good point. It's a positive spin. I mean, we talked before this and you were saying how compliance is fun. And Orlee and I were like, oh, okay.
Yeah, what's in her coffee cup?
What's in ours, apparently, but
I thought we were pretending it was 5 o'clock somewhere today. So
it's 5 o'clock somewhere. It is.
Yeah. And Noel, one thing too that we've been able to do with our clients. So like you say, when we're going in and checking on things for compliance, and they'll say, well, we have this solution, so we know we're compliant, or we're in AWS, whatever, FedRAMP, right? Or we're in AWS, and so we just rely on their SOC 2. That's fine. That's great for a number of instances, right?
It is.
You still have to look for, well, what is the scope, right? Like, what do I even care about? And what can I rely on AWS's certifications for? And what's my responsibility in it, right? Or what can I rely on PreVeil to provide for me from a compliance perspective? And what do I have to configure and manage myself? So just because a solution can be compliant doesn't mean it is. So we've also helped clients that sincerely believed they were compliant, but didn't have all their configuration settings appropriately
Or their
mapped out or turned on.
I mean, and just so everybody, I mean, we're guilty. I mean, every organization is guilty of this. This is not just, I mean,
100%.
truly, like, I am saying this like internally. Like, I remember the first time we did our first assessment and it was like, oh, we were supposed to click that button and not this button.
Exactly.
Got it. You know, it's all these little things that you just don't think about, you know, because like you said, you've got so many other things going on, and you know, so many of these organizations don't have a dedicated compliance person. I mean, I don't think I've spoken to any. Yeah, exactly. I don't think I have ever spoken to, we have over probably about 900 customers now. I've talked to gosh knows how many of them, and I don't think a single one of them has ever told me that they are completely dedicated as the compliance person. I mean, that's a luxury that most of these small and even medium-sized companies just don't have.
It's so true. So that's another good point you bring up. Like when our clients don't have a dedicated resource, and none of them do, then we also have a discussion about, okay, so we get these things set and in place, and then someone comes and audits you, and you're like, oh my God, thank God we got our certification. I'm like, yeah, that's wonderful, but it doesn't stop, right? This is an ongoing certification. It's not a one time and done.
Nope.
So that's another challenge,
Yeah,
right? So
I bet.
we're able to help with that.
Being in shape, like exercising. You can't just, run
Exactly.
one
You
day.
got to maintain.
And that's a big deal, right?
It is.
Because
Yeah,
if you
it
think
is.
about, okay, now the business needs to add a new solution into, its repertoire for whatever reason. Now
Right.
you have to know, okay, is this scoped in to my CMMC compliance effort? And if so, what does that mean?
And
Right?
what does it look like? Is it an
What does it
asset?
look
Is
like?
it an SPA? What do I treat it? Oh gosh, yeah, all those questions. Yep. You're
Right, right. Or you go in and, for some reason, even in my team recently, I said to someone, well, what are our logs looking like? Like, what's going on here? And they're like, oh my God, I just went into M365 and like something got unclicked and we didn't have that log. We didn't have that logging. I'm like, how does this happen?
And yeah, that's
A notification of this, right?
such a
So
good point.
even for those of us that know what we're supposed to do and how to do it, like things just happen. We need ongoing monitoring and support.
So, Kelly, I'm just cognizant that we're kind of running up against time, but I wanted to make sure we get into these kind of final points so that we can leave our viewers with something else to kind of wrap a ribbon around, which is, what companies should be doing to prepare. And we've kind of talked about that in a couple of points up until now. But one of the key ones is, get buy-in from your executive team. That's kind of something you said at the top of this. And what else would you add to that? What are 2 and 3 in that list?
Okay, so I would say, yeah, get buy-in from the executive team. Number 2, I think a big one is determining the scope, right? This is going to really help because, again,
Noël's happy with that.
I know. Yay.
Thank you. I'm heart emoji to that. Yeah.
Most of the time for my clients, it's not your entire business, right?
Very rarely is it ever the entire business in my experience. Yeah, it's so rare.
So I think, definitely determining the scope, right? Because again, I think a lot of clients will be pleasantly surprised at what they do have in place, right? So that's one. And then I would say the next one is really working with a partner, right? Because the certification process is not always fun and it's not easy. I mean, it's not rocket science, but it's also if you're not in compliance and you don't love compliance like we do, it's hard to keep up on what's actually required. What makes a control pass an audit, right? What does that look like? What is an artifact? Like, how do I even provide all this? And like we've talked about, how do I document my systems and the controls I have in place in a manner that's going to be acceptable to an auditor and kind of in government speak, right, for lack of a better term. So I do think that when you partner with experts in this area, that in the end, you will be saving time and money, because those of us that do this all the time and have fun at it, right, and love it, it really does come quickly, right? Like I can ask my clients, talk to me about your change management process. And it's just a narrative. They just talk to me and I ask questions. And then a day or two later, we've got 20 controls documented for what they do in change management, right?
Perfect.
And for them to look at that, again, it's just not what they do, and it's not their priority, right? And rightly so. Most of the time they have to keep the lights on and keep their systems available. So I would say those are kind of the top three.
And we talked about a minute ago, most of these companies don't have a dedicated compliance person. So it's kind of like, why are you sitting here saying to yourself, oh gosh, the sky is falling, I need to do compliance. Well, there are people like you and your company who are out there to help you so that you don't be like, oh gosh, the sky is falling, because your point is such a valid one. You sat down, hey, explain to me what's going on. Okay, great. Now we have it documented. Moving on. That took a couple of days where it could have taken months, for a company that didn't have that expertise hired out.
So it doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. I think a lot of times, and especially like previously in cybersecurity, we kind of like a lot of technobabble and like, let's scare people into spending money on tools and resources and whatnot. And it just doesn't need to be that way. We really work hard to talk with business execs and business terms that make sense to them, right? And again, show how compliance can actually be a competitive driver for your business.
Love that. Yeah, love that. That's so true.
For sure.
Kelly, I was just going to say, as we wrap up, how can people reach out to you if they're interested in learning more about you or in risk and what your team can bring to the table?
Yeah, absolutely. They can visit us at our website, www.risxllc.com. They can email me directly, kelly.fuller@risxllc.com. And I'm happy to talk to anyone. We love to talk. So we talk to potential clients all the time and see if a partnership would be good. We're a woman-owned small business, so we do a lot of tailored and customized assessments. We don't have just a one price or one solution fits all. We work with your organization to see what a win-win would be.
And I'm guilty of having cut across you. You were about to make a point before I asked you to let people know how they can reach you. You had a point you wanted to make there.
I forgot it by now, Orlee. I'm looking forward to the 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Forgot the point. It's gone.
So it's what we all do on a Friday. It's understandable.
Sorry. If it comes back, I'll let you know.
Wonderful. Any final points you want to make, Noël or Kelly? Or we say,
I just want to say how amazing it's been to have you here, Kelly, and the insights that you've shared. We've had a lot of amazing guests on this show, and it's been really nice you're the first very unique perspective of a compliance organization that has to be compliant and helps other people be. It's such an interesting. I hope that it was very educational for me to hear you talk about these things and have the conversation. So I hope our audience enjoyed it as well. It was wonderful having you here and to hear your insights.
Indeed.
Well, thank you. Thank you both. I've really gotten a lot out of watching your webinars and different content that you've provided. Super helpful. So I think you guys are doing an amazing job, and I really appreciate you inviting me today.
Oh, thanks.
Pleasure.